Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sasquatch Theory. In this video, we have Mark, a Missouri resident who would like to share his encounters and experiences with all of us. I know a lot of people from Missouri follow the channel because that is where Sasquatch Theory is based out of, and I do a lot of research from the state. Mark has kind of had a lot of strange phenomenon taking place since he was just a little kid, and it's happened all throughout his life. I always wonder why certain people have these strange experiences in their life, and most of the population has never really had anything happen before. The Ozarks has no shortage of strangeness, and its residents will continue to have these rare experiences as time goes by. Of course, many people are not willing to openly talk about what they have encountered, so it's up for debate as to how many people have really had an encounter in Missouri and throughout the world. If you have had a cryptid encounter that you would like to share with me on the channel, please send me an email sometime at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. And if you enjoy listening to Sasquatch Theory, please like and subscribe to the channel. Alright guys, let's jump straight into this next interview from Missouri here on Sasquatch Theory. All right, Mark, welcome to Sasquatch Theory. How are you doing today, sir?
Real good.
Good. I'm glad you contacted me. Mark, if you would, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and your Bigfoot encounters and experiences from the very beginning, please.
Okay, well, I grew up in the country on the outskirts of DeSoto, Missouri, and I was a hunter all my life. I still do. Hunter and fisherman, outdoorsman, camper. Love to camp and things like that. And I love the outdoors, love being in the woods. My mom would get aggravated at me so many times because she couldn't keep me out of the woods. But anyway, I went in the military about 79, got out, went in again, got out again, went in again, and that's when I got injured, and that shot my career. So now I'm retired, and I'm enjoying it. But my first incident with Bigfoot when I was about 9 years old, I just took off, went behind the house, back in the woods back there exploring, and I came to a four-way fence line. And at the corner of the fence line, I noticed there was a bunch of bones laying around, probably in about a 12-foot diameter circle there. And some of them were big bones, almost like cattle. Some of them were like deer bones. There was turtle shells laying around and some canine skulls. I remember them. But at the time, I never thought, related that to Bigfoot. And I thought to myself, something's been dragging all these bones in this area right here. But so as time went on in the same area, there was some downed trees that I seen, and they were just in one little spot. Probably about 6 trees were pushed over, and they were big trees. And I was looking on the tops of them, on the main trunk of the tree, and it looked like somebody just took a power saw and went down on the top of those trees and just tore them all up, shredded them. And I'm standing there looking, I'm thinking, well, a raccoon or a fox or something wouldn't do that. There's just too much damage done on them trees. And so time went on, and I was getting, sophomore in high school. A friend of mine called, and he said, hey, I bought my first car and I'm going to bring it over and I'll show it to you. I said, sure, bring it out. Well, it's early fall. And as well, just that time of year, it gets dark at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I went outside. I'm waiting for him. He pulls in the drive and he brings another friend of ours with him. And so we're looking at his car, real nice, beautiful Dodge Dart Demon, 70 model. And I looked in his back seat, dome light was on. And I see he had a 12-pack of beer back there. And I said, you got beer? He goes, yeah, you want to drink one? I said, sure. I said, but not here in front of my dad's house. My mom and dad, boy, I'll be in some trouble. I said, let's walk up the road a little ways and we'll drink one. So we grabbed that 12-pack, started walking up the road. We got up there at least a quarter mile. And like I said, it was early fall. And we set that 12-pack of beer down in the middle of the road. Now, back in those days on that road, there was hardly any traffic. The only house on that road for a mile each way was our house and the neighbor's house across the street. And so anyway, we didn't even get that carton of beer open. And off down in the woods, coming from that area I was telling you about where those trees were tore up, we could hear it. We could hear something walking on two legs. You could tell it was heavy. And it was only taking about 3 or 4 steps and it would stop. Well, evidently it heard us up on the road and was coming up to investigate us or something. I don't know what its intentions was. But my 2 friends got really excited. They kept asking me, saying, what is that? I said, I don't know, listen. And then it'd take a few more steps coming closer. And one of them started to run. He got scared, Well, he seen the other 2 still standing there, so he decided, well, I'll stick it out. And all of a sudden, it took a few more steps coming, and you could just hear it just crunch into the woods. You could tell it was really heavy. And it stopped. Like it was really checking us out, Well, I said, grab some rocks. So there's rocks on the edge of the road, the bigger ones, And so we grabbed them rocks, and we were ball players back then. And we started throwing them rocks in there in the woods, hollering, hey, who's out there? And it'd just be real quiet. And then all of a sudden, man, that thing took 3 more steps coming. And by this time, it was getting close. So we grabbed some more rocks, started throwing them, hollering at it. Who's out there? You wouldn't hear nothing. And all of a sudden, it started to walk closer to us, and it was just about ready to come across a 4-strand barbed wire fence into the road where we were at. And that was it. My 2 friends, they took off running toward the house. I followed behind them. My one friend was kind of chubby, and he wasn't real athletic, but I passed him. Well, it scared him so bad, he caught up with me, tripped on my heels and my feet, hit the road on his front chest and everything. And while he was sliding, he was up and running again. He wasn't stopping for nothing. So, but anyway, we made it back to the house, and I'm looking at them, 2 friends of mine, and you could see their faces just white, their eyes wide open, mouths open, and they were shaking. They said, what in the world was that, Mark? They said, you've hunted them woods all your life and stuff. And I said, I don't know. At the time, I didn't know. what it was. Well, we left that 12-pack of beer up there, and I told my friend, I said, "You gonna drive your car up there and go get that beer?" He goes, "No, uh-uh, I ain't going back up there." So he got in his, my two friends got in his car and they left. Well, that next day, my dad always go to work early, 5 o'clock in the morning, because he worked up in St. Louis. And that evening, he come home, come walking into the door, carrying a 12-pack of Bush beer. He kind of looked at me, and I just kind of turned my head like I didn't know nothing about it. So, and it was years down the road. I told my dad about it. I said, "Dad, do you remember that time you found that 12-pack of beer laying in the middle of the road?" He goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, I told him what happened." And he goes, "Well, just be careful out there in them damn woods." Because he more or less knew too. He just was a type that he didn't want to admit to it, that something like that was out there. So that was our first instance. But I put two and two together. I knew what clogged them trees up. He was down there digging in them trees. I don't know, with a rock or something or whatever, but he was tearing them up in there, getting grubs or some kind of insects or whatever, what he was eating on. But when me and my two friends walked up that road and he heard us, that interrupted him. He wasn't happy about it. And so anyway, where I live at now, I have, my friend told you, I had my outside lights ripped down from my little cabin next door to my house. And I live at a little place called Goose Creek, and there's 2,600 acres out here. It's a gated community. It's in St. Francis County. Part of it's in St. John. But where I live at, I was the only one in this whole road. A mile to the west and a mile to the east, there was nobody. No campers. And for a long time, a lot of years, lived out here. I never had no instances with any Bigfoot or anything like that. But now that it's gotten grown up with campers around me, a lot of people, it seems like they got real active. People, they would throw garbage in a trash can that's across the road, and people get done barbecuing or whatever, then they throw the leftovers off to the side of their campsite off in the weeds or something. And I think that's what kind of bring them around. They opportunists. If they can get a free meal, they will. But I was going out catfishing on a nightly basis for some time, and I would fish at night, put the fish on ice, sleep, get up the next morning, I'd clean them. And I'd take the heads in a little plastic shopping bag and all intros and everything, and I'd put them in there, and I'd take them across the road. There's an RV dump station there, and I'd put them all in that trash can. And our maintenance department on Fridays would empty it. Well, every time I'd go up there to dump a bag of trash of catfish heads up there, I'd look in there and they're gone. Well, I know maintenance didn't empty it because there's still other trash in there. And I thought, okay, well, maybe a raccoon or something got them. Well, I'd dump another bag of heads and stuff up in there, looked out in there, the other bag of catfish heads would be gone too. And I got thinking, I thought, well, it's not a raccoon or possum or anything like that, because stuff would be scattered around, and there wasn't. Everything was gone. And about 2 years ago, I'm sitting here and I got a little breakfast bar, and I could see out my front door. I have a little half moon window there, and it was in July. And I was doing some paperwork about 9 o'clock at night, and I looked up across the road from me, and I saw two eyes looking at me. And as soon as I looked up, seen them, it was already looking at me. It was already checking me out. It seen me through my window. Was watching me. But when I looked up, seen him, he instantly turned his head to the right because he saw me look up at him, and he thought, okay, well, he knows I'm here, so he better skedaddle. So I grabbed my handheld spotlight. I went out on the front porch, and I'm standing there shining over there. I couldn't see nothing. He was already gone. But and like me and Dave, he come over and stayed at the cabin a couple days, and we were sitting there about 10 o'clock at night, sitting around the campfire having a beer, and all of a sudden something smacked the backside of my cabin, and I'm only 20 foot away from it. From the backside of it, I got a deck that's built on back there, and it's 30 foot long, 8 foot wide. So I instantly, it was hard enough. It sounded like a horse kicking the side of a barn. That's how forceful it was. So I got up out of my chair. I had my flashlight in my hand. I walked back there, and I'm looking up on top of the roof, looking all around. And I walked around that cabin twice. There wasn't nothing. I came back to my friend Dave, and I said, Dave, you heard that now, didn't you? He goes, yeah. He said, there had to have been a great big huge wind that come down and crashed on that cabin. And I said, no. I said, there's no trees overhanging it. And but yeah, evidently he climbed up over the banister on that, talking about Bigfoot. He had to climb over the banister, and that's 7 foot up, got on the deck where we couldn't see him, and he just wailed on the backside of that cabin one good hard time. And before I could get back there with my flashlight, of course, he's already gone. And I guess he doesn't approve of people being right there. And so one time, probably about 4 years ago, it was in February, and it was a real cold front come through, freezing rain. Temperature was like down to zero, sleet, and it was doing that all night. I could hear it. And so at 3 o'clock in the morning, I got up, had to go to the bathroom, and I was heading back to bed. And I thought, well, heck, I'm up now. I might as well go ahead and make a pot of coffee. So I did, and I flipped on my kitchen light, and it shines out my back window there in my backyard. And so I made the coffee and poured a cup, sit down, getting ready to drink it. And right above my head on that, I got a metal roof on my house there. And all of a sudden, something went bang right off the top of the roof. And I thought, wow. I said, now that was a solid hit. And tell you the truth, there's no way it was a human at 3 o'clock in the morning, zero temperature, 0 degrees out there. That's how cold it was. Why would somebody be over there by my cabin and want to throw a rock and hit my roof? Well, I didn't think about it too much until that day I went out alongside the house to get some firewood because I use wood sometimes for my wood stove. And I looked down right where I always walk at, and there's a rock laying there. And I put two and two together. I said, yeah, that's what that was. That thing threw a rock and bounced it right off my roof. I think what happened was when my kitchen light came on, it interrupted him because I get a lot of deer that come through over there. And I think he comes up there of a night, probably hunting them. And he uses that cabin, I think, is like an ambush point. Because I get a lot of deer that come through there all the time, day and night, you know. And so he kind of thinks that cabin is his. So and like I said, I had some outside lights, strung up out there, and nobody could just reach up and just grab them. But this thing reached up, didn't like them. He grabbed them and yanked them down. So he hangs around out here a lot. He really gets active during the warmer months when people start congregating in here camping and stuff. Now I did see his eyes on another time back behind my house, and I think what he was doing, he was headed up to the cabin. I just happened to shine my flashlight off down in the woods behind the cabin, and I could see the two white eyes, and they were high up off the ground. So I walked a little bit further to my basement door I have under there, shined it again. This time he was further away. So he saw me coming, and he was backing away from me. And so, I mean, they were just white color eyes, and they were bright, real bright. I couldn't believe how bright they was. They really reflected off that flashlight beam. And so this year we'll kind of see what he does this year, see what he's going to do. And let's see, I had a little farm, 5-acre farm down by a little town called Silva, and it's only about 4 or 5 miles from Greenville. It's not far off of Highway 67 there. Half of it was pasture, half of it was wooded, briars, honeysuckle. And so I was in the process of cleaning the place up. It sat there vacant, wasn't taken care of real good. So, and across the road from me was wooded, and it was Corps Engineers property. There's probably about 60 acres over there. So I was going over squirrel hunting. And one time I looked way up in the woods, and I said, man, I've never seen that before, because I've been over there quite a bit. Looked up the hill, and I could see something white sticking out. So I thought, well, I'm going to go look at that, see what that is. So I made my way up there, looked at it, and it was a cedar tree, probably about 10 inches in diameter. And the limbs, there was no limbs till about 4 foot off the ground. But the whole base of that tree, all the way up to about 4 to where the limbs started, it was just white. And something stood there and peeled all the cedar bark off of it. And there wasn't any laying on the ground, because I looked real good on the ground. I said, something carried us all off, because, and it stuck out in the woods, white against a gray brown background. You could see it, but it was completely peeled. And then I'd say probably maybe 40 yards, 45 yards from my front door of the house, across the road, there was I found a little spot, probably 10 foot in diameter, and it was just smashed flat. real flat, just crushed down. The leaves and everything right there. I mean, just flat. You could tell it was smashed. And I thought, what in the world did this? And all the kids in the neighborhood and everything, they'd never been over there. So they never went over there playing or nothing. Never seen them over there. And I didn't think a whole lot about it, but I knew something was spending a lot of time there to keep that all smashed down. And so bow season come along, and all I had was a recurve bow to hunt with. And so I thought, well, there's deer in there. So I got up, about 2 in the morning, drank my coffee, got dressed, and I started easing over there across the road. The road was gravel. And you know how gravel makes noise under your feet. So I was moving real slow because I didn't want to spook the deer. And it's 3 a.m. I'll never forget this. And I'm moving just as slow as you could possibly go. And I'm easing my way over there, taking a step, moving, just easing real slow. And I got about right in front of where that smashed down area I was telling you about. Straight to my left, he was only about 20 feet from me. And I think I caught him napping. I caught him off guard. I happened to get right in front of him. And by the time he knew I was there, it was too late for him to run or walk away or anything, because I would have hurt him. Because that's how close he was, just 20 feet away from me. And he just blew at me. One time he blew at me. He just went like that in a way, and I don't know if it was a warning or what that was, but I knew what it was then. I knew exactly what it was. So I thought, well, I better just go ahead and go on up in the woods and hunt. So I picked up my pace and I walked on up in the woods and hunted that day. And that's why I know all that was smashed down. He was coming in there of a night, right there in that little spot, and was completely hid. Nobody ever knew he was there. And when cars would go by, anybody walking around doing stuff in the neighborhood, he could see all that. And it was like his television. He was observing everything in that neighborhood. So, and I remember one time I walked back in the growed up part of my farm, and I had a lot of blackberries, thick, honeysuckle, real thick, and the vines were even growing up the trees. I mean, you couldn't hardly walk through there. That's how thick it was. And I looked at the blackberries, and they were coming in really good, great big ones. And I thought, okay, come July, I'll walk back here and I'll pick them. Went back there in July, they were gone. All of them were gone. All the honeysuckle was pulled down out of the trees, completely cleaned out. Everything was gone. All the blackberries, even the green part leaves on the blackberry bushes were gone. This thing was coming in there of a nighttime from across the road, going in there and eating almost on a nightly basis. And how I know this is because, and I looked around, didn't see any tracks, none, no deer tracks, nothing. But I was in the house one night, about 10 at night, laying in the living room floor, watching TV. And my wife at the time, she always took a real hot bath, and she would go outside, sit on a little porch swing out there and cool off. and it was like fall time. And she turned the outside light on, opened the door, and there it was. It was standing right there in the road, almost right in front of her. So it was probably about 40 feet away from her. And she said, she didn't say nothing. She just come walking back into the house with her eyes glued to the front door, walking backwards. And I looked at her and I said, "What's the matter?" She didn't say nothing. She kept walking backwards. I said, "What's the matter?" And then she snapped out of it. She goes, "Oh my gosh, I saw it. It was standing right there." I said, "What?" She goes, "I saw that Bigfoot." I said, "What'd it do? Where'd it go?" She goes, "It ran over in the woods." And she instantly started hollering for the kids, said, "Kids, get in here. Get away from the windows." She was scared to death. I mean, she thought this thing had grabbed one of the kids through the windows, you know, and that's how terrified she was of it. And so that was down there. Oh, I'd say there's a big creek that ran through that area, and it always had flowing water in there and some fish, and it was real close to the Wapapella Lake department right there. And let's see. Um,
What did your wife say the creature looked like? Did she describe the features?
yeah, when I asked her right when this happened, I said, "What did it look like?" She goes, "It was big. It was big." It was bigger than you. That's all she kept saying. Because when she flipped that light on, it caught him as he was crossing that road going in behind our property. And she couldn't really get no detail, because as soon as she saw it and it saw her, it turned and 2 bounds was in the woods.
Yeah. And this was down there by Greenville, Missouri?
Yeah, a little town called Silva.
Oh, okay.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know the area very well. What do you think the creature was doing? Was it watching you guys?
Um, well, when she saw it, I think it was going back behind my place and was going back there getting food more. It was eating more. It was going back there probably after some more blackberries. Well, the blackberries were gone. I don't know what it was eating on, because it completely cleaned out all the honeysuckle and everything. So it was headed that direction, is what it was doing. And it was about 10 at night. Hmm.
Yeah. And when you were bow hunting, were you describing a Sasquatch that you seen? Did you actually see it?
No, I used to hunt with a flashlight,
Hmm.
but I don't do that anymore. I I just take my time and wait till I get my night vision and hunt that way. Because if you, like Dave said, you turn on a flashlight out there, everything's going to see it and they're gone. So I was just easing through there, and I to my right was the creek I was talking about, and on the other side of the creek there was a few houses, and they had a few of those dusk and dawn lights that were on outside. And I think that's what it did. It saw me against that lighting, and I happened to walk up on him and I surprised him, and that's when he blew at me. He didn't run, he didn't walk away. He just stayed right there and kept his eye on me, just watching me, seeing what I was going to do.
Yeah. So you didn't see the creature, or you did?
No,
Okay.
no,
You could just
I
hear
couldn't.
him.
Yeah, I couldn't see him, even though he was that close. It was just too dark.
Oh, okay.
But like I said, he just blew at me one time, and that was it. I think it was like a warning: don't get any closer. And I was telling you, how I move real slow like that. I was hunting across from my house over here, bow hunting, same way. And you could just see where it's just barely starting to get a little bit of light. And, and I'm looking ahead of me, looking for movement, looking for deer. And it had rained all that night. So that's why I was in there hunting, because I knew I could get in there and sneak in there and be quiet. And I'm moving my foot forward real slow. And if I would have looked down, I could have killed me a big buck. He was laying right there at my feet. If I would have looked down, I'd have seen him. So when I moved my foot forward, I toe of my shoe touched his hair. And he jumped straight up, ran about 25 yards from me, stood there broadside looking at me. So yeah, if I would have looked down, I could have seen him, but I wasn't. I was looking further ahead of me out into the woods. But he was laying right there at my feet.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences myself where I'm looking out in the woods and I jump up a big deer that was right there in front of me and I never even seen it.
Yeah, and to walk up on one like that and actually touch it with your toe or your shoe, he never saw me, he never heard me, and he didn't even smell me. Yeah, that really surprised me and him both. And I still didn't get a shot at him.
Yeah, that's impressive. So back at Goose Creek in St. Francis County, when you put the fish heads in the trash can, did you happen to get a good look at the creature? Was that a Sasquatch that was reaching into the trash can?
It had to have been McGill, because the whole bag and everything would be gone. I mean, a wild animal or even a dog, they couldn't pull the trash can over because it had a metal fence post driven in, and it's connected to it, so no animals can pull that metal trash can over. It's a 55-gallon drum. But when I saw them eyes across the road from me, I knew what he was doing. He was coming in there grabbing them catfish heads. So
Yeah, it sounds like Bigfoot activity, and it sounds like he was trying to get himself a meal, and he's been going up to that trash can for some time now.
well, I completely agree with you. Yes, that's one of his little restaurants that he goes to.
Yeah.
Yeah, he knows it's there. Other people throw other garbage there too, so he goes when everybody's quieting down, no one's around. He'll go help himself. uh,
Yeah,
i
absolutely.
I was going to tell you about this doesn't really, well, this is a question I have for you, Miguel, and this has always bothered me, and I've always wondered about this. When them Bigfoots are out in the woods, and during the warm months, when it's warm out, there's copperheads, timber rattlers, cottonmouths. They're always out there, and eventually they're going to get bit. So they must have some kind of what is that called, where the venom doesn't react to them?
Yeah, they've built up an immunity to the venom.
Is that what you think it is?
Yeah, it could be. There's people that let snakes bite them, and it seems like they build up an immunity and they're able to withstand venomous bites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, I know, because I've always wondered about that, because if you spend that amount of time out there in the woods like that, eventually you're going to get bit. You know, um, I know my younger brothers, they've been seeing a lot of the copperheads down around Annapolis area. They've seen a lot of the copperheads. I mean, like 10 within a half a day. That's how many there are down there. They're really thick. And I was going to tell you about this. It's not a Bigfoot encounter. It's a UFO encounter. Do you want to hear that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to hear about it, Mark.
Okay. I was in the military at the time. I was in the one of the units I served in. I served in a bunch of them. Served in the 101st Airborne Screaming Eagles down at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and I rented a little house off post, but it was really pretty close to the impact area for artillery and stuff. And I got up. It was in December. I always get up at 4 o'clock, drink my coffee, and I'm out the door by 4:30, quarter to 5 to make my first formation. You know, you can't be late. You got to be there. Anybody in the military tell you that. They know that. So I got in uniform, drank my coffee. I couldn't go out the front door because it was an old farmhouse and it leaned, and you'd really have to jerk on that door to get it open. So I would just go out the back door and go around the side of the house. And I went to my car, got in, nice, cold, clear December morning. Stars were out, no wind. I got in my car. As soon as I started the motor, all around me, oh, I'd say 100 feet or more all around me, it just lit up brighter than daylight instantly. So I didn't hesitate. I pulled the car door handle and I jumped out. I told myself, I'm going to see this. As soon as I got out of the car, it was gone. Couldn't see it. Whatever it was above my car. And the light was shining straight down, real bright. So I'm kind of standing there and I'm looking around and thinking, what in the world was that? Well, I kind of figured what it was then. I knew it was probably a UFO. So I went on into post and I parked my car in the parking lot where we were always supposed to park at. I walked across the road over where my unit is, and I'm looking at everybody and they're all dispersing. Formation's already over. First formation ain't till 5:30 or 6. And I come walking up and I can't figure out how everybody is already walking away. They're getting ready to go to breakfast and stuff like that. And my section chief come walking up. He goes, "Hey, Douglas, how come you're late? You're never late." I said, "I don't know, Sarge." I always wake up early enough to get in here on time. And I told him, I said, "You know what?" And I told him what happened. He goes, "You better report that to the commander." So I did. I went in. My commander called me in his office and I saluted him and stuff. And he said, "Okay, Douglas." So I told him what happened. And he said, "Okay." That's all he said. He didn't say nothing.
Yeah, that is interesting. So this encounter with the UFO that happened at the base?
Yeah, just on the outskirts of it. I was probably about just a few miles from the impact area where artillery lands and stuff. And matter of fact, that was I was down there in 87, 88, 89, 90. And I seen on another podcast where another MP, two MPs were on patrol one night and they had a run in with one, and it just scared the living daylights out of them. It was running alongside their vehicle. And that what they was doing, they was out checking some gated, fenced-in areas where equipment was stored, and they saw movement, and they shined their spotlights in there, and it aggravated one of them. Evidently, there's more than one, but it more or less escorted them out of there, chased them. I don't know if you heard about that or not.
No, I haven't. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, I come across that again, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Mhm.
yeah, the areas that you've talked about are known to have Sasquatch activity as far as St. Francis County and Greenville. I'm not sure if that's Madison County, but even in Greenville, there's like this little cafe and they got this giant Sasquatch outside of the cafe holding a coffee mug. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's right off of what is it, Highway 67 in
Uh-huh.
Greenville, right there in town. There's like a gas station, and you go down the street, and there's a little cafe, and there's this giant Sasquatch, probably about 8 feet tall, and yeah, he's drinking some coffee.
No, I that must have been after I done left from down there. I only had that place for a couple of years, but yeah, it'd be neat to see that. Um, yeah, that little town Silva, that is in Wayne County. Yeah, and so it's and I done some research about that county, and they said 90% of it is wooded, and they log all the time down there, and it's a real uh, wooded county. It's a lot of outdoors people. You know, you got Wapapella Lake, Clearwater Lake is only 17 miles from there, and yeah, a lot of outdoors people in that area. Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of Corps of Engineer property out there. I'm not sure if it's the same as like the Mark Twain National Forest where you're able to camp and explore and hunt and do those things.
Yes, yes, you are. Unless they have it designated to where you can't, you are allowed to go in and camp and hunt and stuff like that.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
those woods across my house, that was all Corps Engineers property too. And you know, they got some areas that are kind of small, but then they got some areas that are really big.
Yeah. Yeah, I took a report from there not too long ago and made a video. There was a gentleman that was down there at Greenville Park. I'm not sure what it's called. It's like the bike trails, the one where it's all paved roads that goes by the river. And
Hmm.
he was riding his bike and he saw this creature running down the hill and it ran in front of the trail and he thinks it was a dog man.
Yeah, I watched that, listened to that. Yeah, he has some music playing,
Yeah.
headphones or
Yep,
something.
that's the guy. And I went down there and made a video with him. And I'm gonna put it together soon. But yeah, I interviewed him a while back and did a podcast, and I thought, man, I need to get a hold of him and see if he'll take me down there and show me around the area.
Hmm. Yeah, that there's some really wild areas back in there. I There's a place off of 67. It's a gravel road. There's no sign there or nothing. And if you take off that gravel road, it'll take you way back in through the woods, and it'll come out to part of Wapapella Lake, and the area is called Lost Creek, and there's a lot of woods back in that area, and it just goes and goes and goes, and you just don't know what all's running around back in there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just took a report from Lake Wapapello, and the guy was having a lot of encounters by the spillway. And the guy that I talked to in Greenville, Andrew, the one who seen the dog man, he didn't know about
Mhm.
this. And basically, he was telling me about the spillway, and I was telling him, man, I just interviewed somebody from Lake Wapapello who's talking about that same area. So that's two different people talking about encounters in the same spot. So it seems like the spillway at Lake Wapapello is a good spot for Sasquatch activity.
Evidently, it is. It's been quite a few years since I've been in that area because I went down there. I know I think it's the Forestry Department, U.S. Forest Service, and all of them. They have an office right there. Or no, I think that might be at Clearwater. Yeah, I think that's over Clearwater Spillway area around the dam.
Yeah, there's a lot going on there too. That's east of Ellington, Missouri, and there's been a lot of UFO reports from the Clearwater Lake, and apparently they come in and out of the lake.
Yeah, I remember that when I was a kid. I remember reading about it and seeing it on the news reports too. hmm
Yeah, I wonder if
Uh,
there's a connection with the UFOs and the Sasquatch.
you know what, McGill? Honestly, my opinion, I don't think there is, unless the only kind of connection I would think that it would be is if you hear the human abductions and stuff. Well, maybe they abducted a couple of Bigfoots and stuff. Maybe they're studying them too.
Yeah,
And
very
same,
well could be.
yes, same as the cattle, sheep, and other animals, deer, whatever. They're interested in the life on this planet, I guess. But but those UFOs, they've been around probably even before dinosaurs were here.
Yeah, it
And
seems to be.
and then Bigfoots,
Hmm.
my opinion, I think they've been here before first the man that was even here. Because
Yeah.
they said that we have gone through 10 ice ages to where the mammoths, saber-toothed cat, and all of them have came into existence and went extinct, be gone for thousands of years, and then another ice age happens, and then they come into existence again. And
Yeah.
they said that's happened like 10 times already.
Yeah, I've heard that before, that like every 12,500 years there's an ice age. And then you got other
hmm
people that, they study the Bible a lot and say that the earth is only like 6,000 years old, which doesn't make too much sense. And there's all kinds of theories. People say that these things are coming in and out of the ground, like there's an underworld. Um, yeah, there's so much going on, especially with the flood story and the giants of the old days. Now that I do certainly believe, and I
Oh
think
yeah.
the Sasquatch could have something to do with that, or they could be descendants of the giants, or some type of creation from the ancient day.
Uh, yeah, and they've already proved that the Gigantopithecus already used to be used to run around out in the wilderness. Uh, but those back then, they were, I think they said they were 15 feet tall.
Yeah, they had have been massive. And there's all kinds of skulls that they've found, primate skulls, and it's hard to say if those are Sasquatch or what they are, some type of ancient Neanderthal. And I don't know, there's just a lot of different types of humans that they've found, like the skulls of Peru, like the elongated skulls. And
Mm.
it makes me think that it's connected with the Sasquatch in some way, shape, or form. And like Patagonia, that's the land of the giants. I'm pretty sure that's what Patagonia means.
Right.
Yeah, so it seems like there's a lot of hints about these creatures, and nobody can really paint a clear picture of what's going on, but we know they're out there, they're running around, and they seem to be able to evade people, and they're really good at it.
Well, I'll tell you, I know one time it was, oh, I kind of forgot about this, but it was about 8 years ago. And I was sleeping, and 3 o'clock in the morning again. It seems like everything always happens around 3 a.m. But that thing was standing up against the blacktop road, just probably 50 yards from my house. and it just started wailing. I instantly sat up in bed. I knew exactly what it was, and it was so loud. And all the windows and everything were just closed up in my house. And this thing was just wailing, and it was reverberating the sound away from my house off toward a big wooded area that's over in that direction. But every time it let out a wail, you could just tell it was taking a great big deep breath, and it just kept getting louder and louder. And I grabbed my uh, flashlight. Opened up my front door real slow and easy, and stepped out on the front porch. And I wanted to see it. Well, this was early April, and you know it's still dark, still chilly, and I think is what it was doing. It was trying to come in contact with another one. But as soon as I got out there, it shut up. I didn't hear it no more. But I could tell exactly where it was at, where the sound was coming from, and I just couldn't believe, McGill, how loud this thing was. It was awesome.
What did it sound like? Could you compare it to anything?
Uh, I've tried. To me, it sounded like an animal that was caught and like it was injured, um, in distress. But it couldn't have been any known animal that we know of, not because it was just too loud. I, those speaker phones that them police use and stuff. I don't think that would even be loud enough compared to what this Bigfoot was doing. I mean, it was something. Hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like it could have been communicating with the rest of the clan, or possibly in distress. Maybe it lost one of its members.
Now, yeah, now that's a thought. Hmm. Now, my friend and his wife that saw those two um, during the middle of the day, I was hoping that she would do a follow up with you on what she saw, and she could tell you what she saw and back up what both of them experienced that day.
Yeah, I'd be up for that. And it'd be neat to get back with Dave and his wife and meet up with you. And we could all sit around and talk about Bigfoot and talk about all of our encounters, perhaps.
You know what? That would be just great because I mean that's not all the experiences I've had with them. There's others. I just haven't written them all down, but yeah, like I said, when I was little, boy, my mom couldn't keep me out of the woods. She knew what was out there because she had the same thing happen to her when she was in grades or high school, I think it was. She lived down in Patton, Missouri. That's where she was born and raised. Her and two of my uncles was coming back from a ball game, and the ride dropped them off the main road, and they had to walk the gravel road to get way back to the farmhouse. And it was dark, and they said something come off a hillside. It heard them come off a hillside, just making a big racket. Came up the side of the hill and came right in front of them, standing right in front of them, right in the gravel driveway, and was just standing there. And my mom, I asked her, I said, how close was it? She goes, it was standing right there in front of me. I could almost touch it. And my uncle, big old country boy, great big arms on him and stuff, and my my mom says, strike a match. The country boys back then always had like a kitchen match hanging out the corner of their mouth. And he struck that match. As soon as he did, it turned and ran, went back down the same way it came from. but it just scared the daylights out of them. Yep.
Yeah, that is
And
frightening.
yeah, and back then there wasn't hardly too many houses back in those days, and it was more desolate, a lot more desolate, a lot more wild. And I think the Bigfoots are getting a lot more of them because the deer population has really exploded, and it's a lot more food for them.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. It seems like, I don't know, I hear a lot of old timers say that back in the day there weren't very many whitetail and it'd be rare to see one, and when people saw one it'd be in the paper, things like that.
Yeah, my mom always said that too. Even if they found a deer track, there'd be people coming in from different counties wanting to come in just to see that deer track. Because back then they hunted them, that was their main staple of food, and they killed them all out till the Missouri Conservation started bringing them in from other states to get them repopulated again. And thanks to them, we have a nice deer herd.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And a big population of Sasquatch too.
Oh, yeah. Well, it seems like they're just getting a lot more sightings of them. Well, there was a guy went down to the dollar store here close to where I live at, and I was talking to the lady that at the checkout, and I was telling her about some of the experiences I've been having out here. She goes, "Well, there was a guy come in here just today or yesterday, said he saw one cross the road in front of him, but I couldn't find out what his name was. She didn't know who he was or anything, but she said he saw one cross the road in front of him. So yeah, there's getting to be more and more of them,
Yeah,
and
it does seem to be.
it's only a matter of time before somebody hits one with a tractor trailer or something, and maybe they'll be identified then.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's going to happen. Somebody's going to get some evidence, whether it's a good video, just like the Patterson footage, or somebody's going to run one over. And I think it does happen, but it seems like they're covering it up. I don't know if that's true, but there are those stories out there.
Well, I'm sure they do. I'm sure they cover it up and hush it up. They don't want the public know because that would hurt the timber industry, the hunting industry, and as well as I do, being a hunter, that bring hunting industry, they just bring in billions of dollars every year, licenses, tags, and fishing license, outdoor equipment, all that stuff. Yeah, it's $1 billion industry, and they don't want to hurt that because that's money.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. Okay, Mark, I think you pretty well covered most of your experiences and encounters. Can you think of anything else you'd like to share?
Not right off, McGill. I just want to tell you, I want to thank you very much for getting in contact with me. I mean, I felt like, I had to get this off my chest. I tell people about it all the time, and some of them laugh, some of them just kind of turn a blind eye to it. They ignore it, and oh yeah, well you're full of whatever, you know. And I'm telling them, no, this really happened. And my two friends that was with me, that when we were in high school, that one come up toward us. When I seen them at a later date, I bring it up and they don't even want to talk about it. They just completely skirt it. They don't want to. They refuse to even talk about it.
Yeah. And did you guys ever see the creature, or did it keep its distance?
No, it was coming to us. It was. I don't know. Like I said, I didn't know what its intentions were,
Mm.
but it was definitely getting ready to cross a barbed wire fence, and that was too close, because we could hear it coming from them trees that were pushed over down there. I was telling you about.
Mm.
We could walking from there, and it was walking up through the woods, and it was really crunching some leaves. I mean, just heavy, real heavy. It had to have been a big one, great big one. But yep, they're around.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Mark. Well, I appreciate you for sharing all your experiences and encounters with all of us and taking the time to do so. You have yourself an excellent day, sir.
Well, you do the same, Miguel, and I thank you again for everything that you do. We all appreciate that.
Well, thank you, and it wouldn't be possible without people like you, so I appreciate it. You take care of yourself, Mark, and hopefully we talk again in the future.
That sounds great. I hope so too.
All right. Take care. Talk to you later.
Okay. Bye.
Bye. Mark, thank you again for being a guest on the show and for sharing your experiences with all of us. Those areas of Missouri that you mentioned are notorious for having Bigfoot activity from time to time, and I do get a lot of reports from that region of Missouri. To me, it does seem like these creatures are mainly seen around waterways and areas that have a significant amount of timber. I often wonder if someone from the government will soon open up about the Sasquatch phenomenon, and they have already admitted that there are strange crafts being seen all around the world. I bet it's coming soon, so it's best to be prepared, and hopefully we are able to better understand the phenomenon here in the near future. I want to know the truth. What about you guys? Do you want to know the truth about what's truly going on? I'm sure we all love the mystery and talking amongst each other about what's really going on, but I think it's time that we finally figure out what is happening around the world. If you agree with that statement, comment down below and mention that we want to know the truth about Bigfoot and UFOs. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe to the channel. And again, if you have a cryptid encounter that you would like to share with me openly here on this platform, please contact me at sasquatchtheory@outlook.com. If you are not able to email me, please contact me like at Facebook or Instagram and get in touch somehow. If you guys are able to, please purchase some merchandise, and I will leave a link down in the description below. And yeah, thank you everyone for watching. It really helps the channel. And until the next Bigfoot encounter, take care everyone and be safe out there.